third Sunday worship service, I ask at this time if you would bow with me in prayer. Most merciful Father, our Father in heaven, our Creator, our Sustainer, our rock in a weary land, our shelter in a time of storm, our fortress and our protector, from whom comes every good and perfect gift. We give you most heartily thanks for all of your blessings of nature and of grace, for everything, whether joy or sorrow, whereby you have drawn us near to yourself, and for all that you have in keeping for them that love you. God, as we observe our surroundings, we can surely and truthfully say, as did the old Song of Zion, through many dangers, toils and snares, I've already come. But we got sense enough to know that it wasn't our own doing, our own bringing. It was grace that brought us, saved us for. And it won't be nothing but your grace, God, that will lead us home. Lord, we do need your grace and your mercy, for these are turbulent times in which we now are living. We ask now, gracious Father, that thou would grant us in all of our doubts and uncertainties to ask what you would have us to do, and that the spirit of wisdom may save us from all false choices. And, oh God, let us continue to take the necessary guidelines that have been set for us to follow. I pray now for your preaching power through your Son Jesus, who is the Christ. Amen. From the gospel, and thank you for tuning in, from the gospel as written by John, the 20th chapter, verses 19 through 25. From the King James Version it reads, Then the same day at evening, being the first day of the week, when the doors were shut, where the disciples were assembled for fear of the Jews, came Jesus and stood in the midst, and said unto them, Peace be unto you. And when he had so said, he showed unto them his hand and his side. Then were the disciples glad when they saw the Lord. Then said Jesus to them again, Peace be unto you. As my Father hath sent me, even so I send you. And when he had said this, he breathed on them, and said unto them, Receive ye the Holy Ghost. Whatsoever sins ye remit, they are remitted unto them. And whatsoever sins ye retain, they are retained. Verse 24. But Thomas, one of the 12, called Didymus, was not with them when Jesus came. The other disciples therefore said unto him, We have seen the Lord. But he said unto them, Except I see in his hand the print of the nail, and put my fingers into the print of the nail, and thrust my hand into his side, I will not believe. I want to share with you the thoughts for the day, living between doubt and fear. We're going to look today at a disciple whom I feel has gotten worse press than any other disciple, with the exception of Judas. But he was actually one of the most outstanding of the apostles. Oftentimes we look at Thomas and see a little more than a failure. But the truth be told, we know very little about him. We are familiar enough to know that he was the man who doubted that Jesus arose from the dead. In fact, we seldom refer to him as the Apostle Thomas. Instead, we have long since renamed him Doubting Thomas. Thomas Didymus lived in Galilee. But what we didn't know was that his Hebrew name was Thomas, and Didymus was his Greek name. Both names mean twin. Somehow this morning, I want us to overcome our negative impressions about about Thomas and allow us to walk in his shoes. Actually, the Bible gives us very little information about Thomas. In the first three Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, all we know about Thomas is that his name is listed among the 12 disciples. That's it. Everything else we know about Thomas is found in the Gospel of John. But even in John's Gospel, he is mentioned only 3 times. The first time we meet Thomas is in John chapter 11. And in this episode, word came to Jesus that his friend Lazarus was sick. And out of desperation, Mary and Martha, the sisters of Lazarus, had sent word to Jesus, hoping he would come and heal their brother. The sisters reminded Jesus of how much he loved Lazarus and how much Lazarus loved him. But instead of dropping everything and going to Lazarus, Jesus continued with his ministry. Then a few days later, out of the left field, Jesus told his disciples that Lazarus was dead and that he was returning to Judea to see him. When the disciples heard this, they became visibly upset. They were troubled not because Lazarus was dead. Instead, they reminded Jesus in no uncertain terms, Lord, don't you remember the last time you were in Judea? The Jews tried to kill you. They wanted to stone you. If you go back, they may very well succeed. The disciples tried to stop Jesus, fearing for his life. And we might add, and fearing for their own lives as well. It's important for us to notice here now. At no time did Jesus force the disciples to go with him. There were no demands made of them. In fact, Jesus did not even ask them to go with him. It was precisely that moment we meet Thomas. Fully realizing the danger of returning to Judea, Thomas spoke up and said to the other disciples, let us go that we may die with him. What a statement, what an affirmation of faith. It was clearly an expression of love for Jesus. In essence, Thomas was saying, if the people take up stones and kill Jesus, let us die with him. If he is cast into prison, let us go to prison also. These words should cause us to remember something perhaps that Jesus said on one occasion. Greater love has no man than this, that a man will lay down his life for a friend. Thomas loved Jesus so much that he was willing to die right along beside him. This statement took great courage on the part of Thomas. So instead of calling him Thomas the doubter, perhaps we should call him Thomas the risk taker. No one had to spell it out for Thomas. He realized that if he went to Judea with Jesus, there was a high probability that he would die also. Humanly speaking, it would be impossible for 13 men to stand against an angry mob armed with stones. But Thomas was willing to take the risk. Why? Because he loved Jesus with all his heart. If we love Jesus, we are to be called risk takers. Think about it. Following Jesus involved a certain amount of risk. It's a risky thing to get up out of your pew and walk down this aisle and say before God and everyone else, I'm a sinner. I'm sorry for the things I have done wrong. I am now accepting Jesus as my Lord and Savior. There's a risk involved in committing yourself to be a member of a local church. It requires a great deal of risk to turn over your income to God and give 10% of it to the church. It's a risky matter to tell a colleague or friend about Jesus. One never knows if he or she might be labeled as holy or religious. Think of all the men and women throughout Christendom who have been willing to take a risk. There was Moses, who took a risk. Stood up before the greatest military force in the world at that time and led the Israelites out of Egypt. Then there was David, a young shepherd boy who took a risk and faced a mighty warrior giant called Goliath on the battlefield with nothing but a slingshot and faith in God. It was a risky matter for an uneducated fisherman named Peter to take a risk to stand up on the day of Pentecost before a massive crowd and deliver his first sermon. It involved risk for Paul to preach to the Roman emperor. It involved risk for Martin Luther to nail a copy of his complaints on the church door. It took a risk for John Wesley to ordain lay people to be preachers in America, for Dietrich Bonhoeffer to call Adolf Hitler's Germany sinful. It took a risk for Mother Teresa to devote her life to the lepers colony. Then the next time we see Thomas. It's on the night of the Last Supper. It was the night when Jesus broke bread and blessed the cup and gave it to his disciples in remembrance of himself. Just hours before his death, Jesus longed to share some special insight with his disciples. And we find these beautiful words recorded in the 14th chapter of John. And I'm sure you will recognize them. He said to them, "Let not your heart be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you, I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there ye may be also. And where I go, you know, and the way you know." It was at that moment we could hear from Thomas. He breaks into the conversation not to be rude, but to ask a question. And his question was, "Lord, we do not know where you are going, so how can we know the way?" Inquiring mind want to know. Thomas was not only a risk taker, he was Thomas, the inquirer. He was not a man who considered himself to have all the answers. Instead, he was an individual who wanted to know more. He wanted to understand what Jesus was talking about. And I would venture to say we need more Christians like Thomas now today, who are longing to know more about Jesus and his word. For there are too many Christians who are satisfied with knowing Jesus on a superficial level. This wasn't good enough for Thomas. Then Jesus answered this question. "I am the way. I am the truth and the life. No man comes unto the Father but by me." Next time we see Thomas, the disciples were in the upper room, 120 of them said. It was Easter Sunday, after that Friday. And suddenly the doors opened, even though they were locked. Jesus walked in and said, "Peace be unto you." Jesus then showed them his hand and his side and his feet and said once again, "Peace be unto you." He gave them a commission that just as the Father had sent me, he was sending them, and he left. As soon as they saw Thomas, the disciples, they said, "Thomas, he is alive. He is alive. We saw him with our own eyes." Thomas said, I won't believe it my fingers into his side and placed, brother, my hand into the wound in his side. I can't believe that. Well, 8 days later, they were gathered together, but this time Thomas was with the group. Once again, Jesus came and stood among them. Jesus did not waste a moment. He walked straight over to Thomas and said, Thomas, here is my hand. Put your finger in it. Here is my side. Thrust your arm into it. Stop doubting and believe. Wow. Thomas was standing in the presence of the resurrected, living Jesus. He had been dead, but now he is alive. What was he to do? Should he fall down and kiss Jesus' feet? Should he cry? Should he shout? What should he do? Thomas responded to Jesus with what many have considered to be the climax of the Gospel of John. Thomas said, my Lord and my God. Thomas the doubter is now Thomas the witness. For the first time in the Bible, Jesus is called God. He had been called Lord, teacher, Son of David, and even the Son of God. But now, one who had doubted gave the greatest witness of all. He proclaimed, my Lord and my God. Somebody's asking, do you believe? Yes, I believe. Don't you understand that we as Christians, I want you to hear this carefully. It says somewhere in the Bible, we walk by faith and not by sight. I've never seen Jesus, but I felt him in my life. Which means by faith, I saw Jesus walking on the water. By faith, I heard Jesus speak from the cross, Father, forgive them, because they know not what they do. By faith, I have seen the glory of God in the cross of Jesus Christ. By faith, his stripes for me were unmistakable. By faith, his sacrifice for me was undeserved. By faith, his nighttime sacrifice gave me a morning experience. By faith, I believe that somewhere morning, when this life is over, I'll fly away to the land of God's celestial shore. Some call it a gated community. 3 gates in the north, 3 gates in the south, 3 gates in the east, 3 gates in the west. In that gated community is a city named No More. No more tears. No more burden. No more tribulation. No more worries. No more anxiety. No more heartache. No more trouble. No more sickness. No more doubt. No more fear. No more discouragement. No more death. Lord, I believe, but help my unbelief. By faith, why should I feel discouraged? Why should the shadows come? Why should my heart be lonely and long for heaven and a home when Jesus is my portion? My constant friend is he. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know he watches me. So in the midst of the virus that we have going on, in the midst of turmoil, in the midst of confusion, I can still sing because I'm happy. I can sing because I'm free. Because his eye is on the sparrow. And I know he watches me.
Why
bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. The Lord lift up the light of his countenance upon you and give you his peace.